Everybody, Elizabeth Mendenhoff.
If you need to know, the bed next door at the hotel is awesome. So having slept in a lot of beds traveling around, I get to know that. So you came this morning, you had said unicorn real estate. You were like, oh my gosh, what's this going to be? I promise you it's not an entire morning of rainbows and unicorns and snowflakes and glitter and things like that. But we will definitely be talking about what unicorns are, and it is definitely a story about life. And with all good stories start with once upon a time. So once upon a time, I was a little girl, right? 5 years old, loved office supplies. Is there anybody else here in the room who is an office supply junkie? You are my girls. You are my guys. You know what I mean. You love the pencils. You love all of the order taker things. In fact, one of the number one Christmas gifts for children under the age of 10, still to this day, is a $1 gift, and it is an order taker, like waitress pad that you might see at a diner. And I think that's because there's something inside of us that loves to serve others. You know, there's something where we like to serve. We like to be that person who helps someone, and we like to be that person who brings value to someone else. And so when I was 5, I literally had a little desk. I had it all set up. You could walk into my room. You could take the offers. I could staple your invoice. I could prepare, little products for you and send it out. And I was that office geek. Now that was really cool, and my family thought it was really cool until I was 13. And they still thought I was that little office geek. Well, by the time I was 13, I was kind of ready to move on, right? But they didn't get that. So when I was 13, my grandmother had what she called a corporate Christmas for me. And my corporate Christmas included giving me stock. Now, when you're 13, that's kind of not the gift that you want, right? You want the makeup, you want the purses, you want something fun. Today, thank you, Grandma. Appreciate you, Grandma. Thank you for that Hershey's stock. Thank you for that Walmart stock. That'll provide me with some fun trip later on down the line. Something fun. So you have to imagine that here I am. I'm this, little, still kind of geek. My grandmother was a realtor. I'm a 6th generation realtor from Columbia, Missouri. So I grew up, we're either all completely insane or we absolutely love this business. We started in 1894, kind of grew up along the way. At one point we had 2 companies because my grandfather and his father-in-law could not get along. So we had what was called Boone Realty and we had what was called Mendenhall Realty. And eventually we merged into Boone Realty. And then in 1991, we saw the light. We joined the red, white, and blue. We joined Remax, and we've been so proud to be part of that Remax franchise ever since. So in our marketplace, we are very, maybe similar to you, maybe not similar to you in instances, but our average sales price is about $190,000. And we're in Missouri. Yeah, see, there's the laughs. I always get that outside of Missouri. We sell land, we sell everything. None of my agents really want to specialize in anything because they have to do everything in order to make a lot of money. So my daily job, as I say, is working with agents and trying to make sure that they can be more successful and figuring out how their businesses can be more successful. And then my night job that I've done for the past about 4 years now is volunteer for the National Association of Realtors. So if you have any questions on that, I can certainly answer those questions, but I love my day job being a broker. So going back to this, geek, one of the things that I got to do, being part of being a National Association of Realtors president, is we have a partnership with Realtor.com. Many of you know that. So Realtor.com is owned by News Corp, which is a huge conglomerate, which also owns the Wall Street Journal. So we get this phone call one day from some of the executives at Wall Street Journal, and they're like, do you want to come to the Wall Street Journal Tech Conference? Now, we get asked all the time as officers to go to events, or we'll get invited to different events and everything, and we're like, okay, well, when is it? November? Where is it? Laguna? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'm from Missouri. I will take that trip if I have to, right? So we go, show up at Laguna. We walk into this conference, 250 people. Like, this is not a big conference. kind of wandering around, me and my other officer, he's from Minnesota. We're just, kind of figuring things out. We start looking over and we see on-site registration, $7,500. We're like, where are we? Because I know we didn't pay that. I know we got comped, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I look around, and here comes this guy, kind of walking in like this, and he's about this tall. It's Scottie Pippen. I'm like, oh, hey. He sits down. He's a participant. He's not on stage. Like, well, this is getting more and more interesting. So then I sit down in my seat, and it's a small room, and the room literally is, it's only about, maybe twice this size, 2.5 times the size. And I sit down to this guy, and he looks like he's probably, I don't know, maybe 32 at the oldest. And I'm like, so what do you do? I think he asked me that first. What do you do? I'm like, oh, well, I work at Remax. He's like, oh, in Denver? No, no. Where? In Missouri. Oh, are you part of corporate? No, no. I'm a realtor. With Remax. In corporate? No. No, I've got an independent office in Missouri. He's like, okay. I'm like, what do you do? He's like, I'm retired. Well, what did you do? I wrote the first app for Apple ever. I'm like, okay, all righty then. And now all of a sudden we start to realize, and we're asking around, everyone in the room is a billionaire. Everyone in the room is a billionaire. This is the tech of the tech, the top of the top, the biggest of the biggest. And so the speakers on stage were just absolutely amazing. And we're listening to what's happening in Silicon Valley and how Wall Street Journal is participating. And it's really cool if you ever go to a conference where all of a sudden reporters are interviewing people. It's one of the best things ever because they know how to do a really, really good interview. So one of the women gets up on stage, and she's the reporter, and she's interviewing this woman by the name of Eileen Lee. So when Eileen walked on to the stage, the entire room stood up and started clapping and cheering. I'm like, who's Eileen? Okay. But she kind of comes up and she's doing this, and she gets up on stage and she sits down and she's like, hey guys, hi, oh look, hi, oh look, hey, it's you, oh, we're so glad you're here. She is the rock star of the world. Eileen started a company called Cowboy Ventures. And she is a venture capitalist, and she has invested in many of the people who were in the room. Eileen coined a term as she starts talking about a unicorn company. Anybody ever heard of a unicorn company in the tech world? She started it. She started this term. It's a company, it's privately owned, it's a startup with a market valuation of an estimation of $1 billion or more. So this is the top of the top. These are the companies who come in, they skyrocket to the top. These are the companies that you think of. Everyone wants to be a unicorn company. And Eileen is famous for not only coining that term, but also investing in the most companies which have become unicorn companies. So she's up there and she starts talking about, different characteristics, and she's saying, well, what makes a unicorn company? And there are these different characteristics that make unicorn companies of what she's looking for when she starts to invest in tech companies. And a lot of them are things such as the leaders of the company, what the values stand for the companies, and she starts outlining them. And she talks about the fact that of these companies, no one who comes in has just jumped in to the tech world. They didn't just walk off the street, coming from, working at the bus station and all of a sudden had this great idea. Most all of them have all worked in the industry or worked in a similar tech industry. Most all of them have been part of some company before, but the one thing that they all have in common, they all have disrupted service industries. So of course, here my ears perk up, right? Because what is our ultimate service industry? And that is certainly real estate. And we know that everywhere we go, people are talking about how we're going to disrupt the service industry and how we're going to disrupt realtors, and why hasn't that happened and why hasn't that changed. So some of the other things she talked about is she mentioned that so far, the industries that have been disruptive have been one-sided. If you look at the travel industry, and everyone always compares this to the travel industry, right? It's one-sided. You buy a ticket, and the risk of the ticket is low. It's not a two-sided transaction. So the two-sided transactions are the transactions that involve attorneys. They're the transactions that involve homes. They're the transactions that involve two people. And nobody's really kind of gotten into that space just yet. The other thing that Eileen had is I told you how she kind of bopped up on the stage. She had the coolest shoes I've ever seen of anybody sitting on stage. Carl, what did you tell me that Olivier was? He was the polished one and you were the gangster. Is that right? You know? So I don't know which one of you it is who has the really cool kicks, but Eileen walks up and she's up there and she's doing this and sitting on stage, and the whole time she's kind of shaking her leg, and she's got these amazing Nikes that are like red, white, and blue, and they're shining. And finally, the reporter says to her, and she says, I just have to say this, you have the most amazing tennis shoes that anybody has ever had, on the Wall Street Journal stage. And she said, why I have my shoes? She said, because you got to be special. She said, you got to be special. If you're going to be a unicorn in this world, if you're going to be in this business and you're going to shine out, she said, there has to be something that's special about you. She said, whenever I put my shoes on, I'm always reminded to be special. So, the unicorn company in the tech world is no longer a myth. It is absolutely a reality. So when you start talking about unicorns, she first coins this phrase and everybody goes, ooh, I want to be a unicorn. And all of a sudden there's just a couple unicorns. But now it is absolutely a reality that $1 billion mark can be achieved. It's kind of like, world records. All of a sudden somebody sets a world record and nobody's broken that world record in 20 years. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 everyone's breaking the world record because you realize it's achievable. They are not slow and steady companies. They are big. They want it all. They want it now. They dream big. They want to become legends in their own time. As a broker, Olivia and I were just having this conversation. It makes me think of many realtors who enter this profession. They want to walk in, right? They want to all of a sudden, yes, I'm going to be a $20 million producer overnight. Thank you very much. I just had my business card pictures taken. They're absolutely amazing. I have a team of 10 because I have no idea how to run a team, but I will be the top agent in this town. Thank you very much, and watch me go, and then we'll watch you leave. But there's a lot of that in our world right now. There's so much of that in our world of, yes, I'm going to be the coolest, and I'm going to step off the pages of HGTV, and I'm going to be the next, millionaire agent from New Jersey, and watch me go. And then what happens? You have to work with them. And it sucks. Right? It sucks. And you find yourself doing everything in the transaction because the guy or girl on the other side can't get anything done. But their cards look cool. And they've got a team of 10. And they're out there. And I will tell you, as national president, everywhere I go, it's the number one thing I hear. All these agents who think they're so cool, and none of them are professional. And it's what we define as our industry needs to be more professional. Our industry needs to be better. It's the hot, cool stud or studess, if you know, who comes in who wants to be this. They want to be legends in their own time. They want to be so cool. And that was one of the things that Eileen was saying. She's like, everybody's coming into my office and they're talking to me and they're telling me how amazing they're going to be and they're going to be this $1 billion company. But if they don't have the history, if they don't have the training, if they don't have the knowledge to back it up, they're never going to get there. But there is the possibility for it. So mentioned that so this is the cover actually of Fortune magazine in 2015. So now we're almost looking at 4 years ago when we started to first hear this term unicorn and the age of the unicorns. Today, and in 2018, the odds of becoming a unicorn was less than 1% for the companies that had already raised the venture capital. So this number becomes very small. And we start to say, who are these big unicorns that everybody wants to be? And as I mentioned, it's the companies that we hear about. It's the Uber, it's the Pinterest, it's the Airbnb. Well, interestingly enough, what have we heard about some of these companies just recently? Maybe they're not doing so hot. Maybe the numbers don't look so hot. Economy is starting to change. They're not looking as hot as we thought they were. The other interesting characteristic about these top tech unicorns is that of the top 15, they are all in the US or China. That's it. It's the US or China, and it's it. And there's billions of dollars that are coming into it. So what does it look more like in our world of what a unicorn is? And I brought this slide today just to show you, because I talk about this a lot more when I'm talking with different associations and realtors about how hard it is to manage, if you will, lead, if you will, this real estate industry. And as an association, or even companies who are getting into this industry. In San Jose, it's a 1.3 median sales price. 990 in San Francisco. In Youngstown, Pennsylvania, it's 97,000. The difference in this country and all across the country of how we are participating and how we are playing this game is so vast and so different. There is no one size fits all solution. And so part of what I feel like is happening as we're going through this industry is we're seeing all these really big things happen, and we're seeing some of these unicorns in our industry. We're seeing the Zillows, we're seeing the DocuSigns, we're seeing the big companies that are coming in. And it's kind of like, it's very overwhelming as a single agent, right? To go, am I still going to be around 5 years from now? As a broker, am I still going to be around 10 years from now? But I will tell you, the thing that they can't get a handle on is that we're so different and we're practicing so different that there's so many different variables to this piece that we're a really hard industry to kind of get our hands on and disrupt or innovate in. In our world, again, what does it look like in the world of the unicorn? There are only 6% of realtors who earn $250,000 annually or more. They're in the Remax franchise. Most of them are. Most of them are in the Remax franchise. That's why we're here, to be surrounded by the successful agents. 26% earn less than $10,000. 1 out of 4 are earning less than $10,000. The median gross income, realtor income, is still $39,000. It may have jumped to $41,000, I think. These numbers I give to every new recruit. I don't think anybody got in this business, left a 40-hour-a-week job with insurance benefits to earn $39,000 as an independent contractor with self-employment taxes, with the insurance that you had to pay by yourself to do this, unless you needed some free time or just some free spending money, right? But it's a reality, and so we've got to address it, and we've got to know it, because you want to be better. We want you to be better. We want you to build that business within a business, and we know, what did you say? What did you call it? Micro commitments. That is my new favorite word of the day. With the micro commitments, you get higher and higher and higher on this. But it's, again, 6%, 250,000. So for those, I'm here off HGTV. Let's get real. How are you going to get here, and how are you going to get here quick? So back to the tech companies. I told you they were rare, but they were not Loch Ness Monster rare. There's not only one. There are 302 around the world. Their accumulated valuation is over, $1,000 billion. And in 2018 alone, 35 tech companies reached this status. So it's, again, the bigger get bigger. They get there faster, and then we see what happens to them. What happens to them down the way. Now, with Eileen said, as she started doing her discovery and as she started looking at the companies, she started realizing that they do have these patterns. So today, one of the things we're going to talk about are 4 different pieces of what it means to be a unicorn. The company, of which you are one. You are your independent company. The leader, of which you are one, the leader of your company, the team that you participate in, and then why were they able to disrupt? That service piece that really kind of digs in on that. So as far as the companies go, and I know that Carl and Olivier, I know if there's one thing we can continue to drill into the heads of our agents, is that it's up to you. We can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself. You are a company. And it's the best thing about this industry. It's also the hardest thing about this industry, right? Because it's up to you. It's up to you to figure this out. Now, so for the companies, the unicorn companies, the first thing that they did, there's 4 steps to the companies, was they developed a meaningful, ownable value proposition. Meaningful and ownable, that they could own this value proposition day in, day out. Now, if you are here today, you were one of the first 100 who signed up. You probably regularly go to education. You are the superstars who come in. We love you as a broker because you always want to learn, but it also means you're probably always changing your value proposition, right? Because each year you're reinventing yourself and you're going, well, let's reinvent myself. Versus sometimes you just have to take a step back and say, I don't need to reinvent what I'm doing. I just need to continually do what I know that I need to do. And I think this time of year, when you talk about doing grand business plans and steps and all the different things, there generally isn't anything on there that you know you shouldn't already be doing, right? It's just a good time to kind of go back in and kind of refocus on what you're focusing on. Not change your focus, but go back and look at that value proposition and say, can I own this? Can I go out and can I say to every client that I know that I own this and this is the value proposition that I want to do? Number 2, they relentlessly evolve. That is the absolute best thing about being a realtor and being a single entrepreneur is you have the chance to evolve it. Not shake it up and totally destroy it, but evolve it as it starts to hit the industry. You know, in today's market, we talk about it. A lot of companies are not planning past 6 months because they don't know where the next piece is going to be or the next big thing is going to hit that's going to change our marketplace. So continuing to evolve the value proposition became a real critical step for what those top unicorn companies need to be. The other thing is they focus on their key consumer group. How many of you think you have a strong key consumer group that is different than the person sitting next to you? Few hands go up. Are each of you individually different? Do you each have individual differences of things that you like? Where's the runners in the room? Any runners? They're running. They're out running. No. What were you going to say?
I was saying sometimes.
Sometimes? Yeah. Who are the moms? Got some moms. You know, who are the volleyball players? Anybody? Who are the motorcycle junkies? Got guys who have the motorcycles, hot rods, cars? You see my point, though. You all have these amazing differences amongst you with these definable key customer groups that have to be different than the person sitting next to you. If it's a dog lover, are you the bourbon person? You know, do you love the fact that you love doing monograms? Whatever that may be, start dialing in on that really, really strong and finding what your key consumer group looks like or customer group looks like because it has to be different than the person. If it's general, if it's just everybody, you're never going to get just everybody. Everybody doesn't want a general realtor. They want you. They want you because you're amazing. They want you because they like you. And then they want to refer people who like them to like you. So think about this one and really focus in on that key customer group. Number 3, they recognize failure and they move on. I was just telling Carl and Olivia, I sold an office this year. It was like a weight off my shoulders. It was 5 hours away. So sometimes people, when they have midlife crisis, they buy a car. I bought an office because it seemed to make sense, you know, because sure, I can get 5 hours away anytime I want to. But it was kind of an office that was floundering. It was failing, and we were trying to help it along. And it was in the same region that we were in. So we thought, you know, okay, let's kind of do it. And we stumbled along with it for 5 years and then finally said, you know what? There's somebody there in the market who can do it better. They want to buy it. They want to actually pay me for this. I'm like, well, let's do it. You know, if you're failing at something and it's not working, move on. Again, best thing, move on. Don't continually do it. Move on. So the last thing, whoops, did I get the last thing? Yeah, they recognize failure, move on. Lots of other reasons why companies fail. They lose focus. This is the time of year to refocus. They lack motivation and passion. And again, Carl said it was a great word. This is an emotional time. Sometimes as kind of the market changes and things, we have that losing the motivation and focus. Too much pride is, we know that too much pride sometimes can get in our own way when we're needing trouble. Sometimes we have to reach out to those clients and say, hey, I need some more business. Because again, what is that number one thing that little kid wants for Christmas? The order taker pad. To serve somebody, to help somebody. We all want to help somebody. We want to make a difference in someone else's lives. So sometimes it just takes reaching out and saying, you know what, I need some more business. Market's changed a little bit. You got 10 people that you know, and you want to say to them, hey, guess what? I'm trying to get 10 more sales before the end of the year. Can you help me out? And people go, hey, yeah, I can, but we got to suck up our pride, and sometimes we got to ask for it. The two last reasons that the companies fail is because they don't have good mentorship and they don't have strong leadership. There is I want to tell you, I have traveled more than 200 days a year. I've been inside of Realogy companies. I've been inside of independent companies. I've been inside of companies all across this country. I've met with the leadership of every large company you can possibly think of. There's no place I'd rather be than Remax. 100%. If there's anything I learned along the journey, that was it. The brains, the smarts, the ability to function, the ability to change absolutely exists inside of this franchise. The people and the broker owners that I've met exist inside this franchise. The top agents all across the country are in this franchise. I'd be blown away because I'd be somewhere and I'd be in some meeting and we'd be talking about a conversation, and you get to the end, it's like, hey, let me have your card, and we'd swap cards and we'd both go, yeah, Remax. That's right, we get it, and kind of know it. And so those opportunities, what's so great is whether it's in your own company or whether it's online, the Facebook groups, with Remax, the Remax creativity and energy, that you can learn from, they're everywhere and everyone wants to help. And strong leadership, you got it, you know it. That's why you're here. So those are some of the things that the top companies were looking for, right? So the next thing Eileen says, all right, if I'm really going to find somebody who's going to be a real, true unicorn company, it can't happen unless they have a unicorn leader. It's not going to happen unless the person who is leading the organization is really that special person that really bounces off and has some different things. So for you, leading that company, every one of you has something inside of you that is special and different and unique from someone else. It's a leader that acts as a catalyst. It's a leader that disrupts the status quo. It's a leader who creates deep, long-lasting, positive change in the world. I cannot think of another profession that creates deep, long-lasting change than real estate and realtors. When you think of what you've done when you have touched your clients and you have sold them a home and you have put them in a home, you have absolutely empowered them to now build that equity that they never would have had otherwise. You are creating this deep, long-lasting change, which is allowing them to use that asset potentially now to send their children to college, to pay for, healthcare expenses for their parents down the way, to retire when they want to at an age that they want to. Who else does that for someone but you? That realtor who helps them in that transaction. You are that leader, that person. And so now we've got to harness that within you to make sure that as the leader of your business and your enterprise, that you're sharing that with these people that you touch so that they can feel that and they understand that and they can refer you to your company. Every year, there are 50,000 new realtors who enter this profession. 50,000 who are trying to get a piece of this pie. Now, of those, only 1/3 will make it 3 years. Who's less than 3 years? We're fighting for you guys. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Only half will make it 5 years. Only half. Why? because you haven't set up your micro commitments to create the relationships, to create the referrals, to generate the business. Single-handedly, I can tell you that I am always amazed every year. There is somebody in my office who comes in and says, I can't believe how easy it got this year. I can't believe how easy it got. Now, it used to be that realtor would come in about the 5th to 7th year. Because at that point in time, sellers moved on the average of every 5 to 7 years. Today, they're staying in their house longer. They're moving on to the average of every 9 to 10 years. So it's going to take a little bit longer. But if you're willing and you want to ride this out, I bet at 9 to 10 years, you have that moment where you go, wow, all of a sudden it just got a little bit easier. The one question that the unicorn leaders asked that she always found from everybody was, how can I change the world and have an amazing time? Guys, we cannot do this business if we don't have fun. If you're not having fun, change up the way you're doing the business. There's so much fun that you can have in this business. There is so many ways that you can touch people's lives, right? You know, I mean, it's fun to call up people and say, hey, I just stalked you on Facebook. Oh my gosh, it looked like you had a great time at your children's soccer game last night. You don't know what to say to a client. You don't know what to say when you call them up. Go stalk them. Go find out what they just tweeted about. See what they put on Facebook last night and go, oh my gosh, that's awesome. You don't want to call them. You're scared to call them. Do what one of my best friends in Utah did. He sells 250 homes a year. He would get up every morning. He would call 5 people. He just woke up. He said, I got sick of it. He goes, I didn't want to call them. They didn't want to answer the phone. Every day he texts 15 people. Every day he texts 15 people. He goes on Facebook, he looks them up, and he comments on their Facebook feed. That's all he does. He says 100%, and he says, if I haven't done my texting, he gets depressed, he gets upset. He doesn't say, do you want to go buy and sell homes? He's just checking in. Hey, check it in. Hey, looking on your Facebook, haven't seen you in a while. You know, all those different things. So again, as an entrepreneur, this is your business. You chose this business. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully, if you don't, that's another seminar Carl will bring someone in for. You know, I don't know how to help with that one, right? And then how do you have an amazing time doing it? How do you have an amazing time doing it? For me, part of this journey and this amazing journey, and I have to give this plug, has been volunteering for the association because it gives you a little bit of a balance. It gives you the balance of working with your clients, and then it gives you the balance of working in the profession. And it kind of gives you also, and again, working in the profession, that's where I get my data, where I can talk to my agents and talk to my clients. So it kind of balances, back and forth. But you got to have an amazing time doing it. You got to have fun doing it. You got to make it fun, and then if you're not having fun, go have fun with your clients, because then they might like you too. But that's important too. What it leads to though is nothing up here is magical. Looks magical because it's unicornish, but nothing is magical. These are the steps of leaders. Nothing here is new. It's not different. They're the habits of unicorn leaders. So I have this amazing opportunity to serve as president of the National Association, and I've worked with some really cool leaders. They are all different. Every single one of them is different. But as it boils down, we just like here in this room, we still have that fundamental basis of why we're here is we want to help the buyers, we want to help the sellers, and we want to have an amazing time doing it. The year before I was president, I worked with a guy named Bill Brown, and Bill was from San Francisco. Bill, my manager called him the Walking Dead. He needed a double lung transplant. The president of our association, who was supposed to travel 200 days a year, needed a double lung transplant, and he looked awful. He absolutely looked awful. So try working with a leader who's kind of in that position, and someone who's in that. And you've had clients where you've had to work with them and where they're not in the best health, and it's scary in what they do. But Bill, the thing about Bill is Bill always told you what he thought, no matter what. I mean, he was no matter what. I call him the walk leader or walk the talk leader. Whatever came out of his mouth is what he did. Bill would sit with us in meetings, and no matter how sick he was, there were days he would be upset with something, and he would think, something that we were doing wasn't the way we should do it. And he'd be like, F you, what are you all doing? Y'all are crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then finally you kind of sit there and you have that moment and you're like, well, F you too, and you're like, okay, did I really just say that? Oh my gosh, what's happening? But when he left the room, as amped up as he would get, he always supported the team. Always supported the team. If you're running a team and you have a team in this business, whether it's yourself, whether it's you, your mortgage lender, your title company, whether it's you, your broker, the assistant at the office, whether the team is you, your spouse, your children at home, you got to be honest. You got to tell them what's going on. I mean, I don't know how many times as a broker, I've got an agent who's on a run and they're just selling and selling and selling. And you forget to let the people around you kind of know why you're gone 3 days in a row. Because you're doing inspections, you're at title companies, you're closing, you haven't checked in, sorry, I'm not going to be home. They don't know if you're at a class, they don't know where you are. Or then the opposite happens. You haven't had a sale in a while, and you haven't checked in at home, and you haven't told somebody on that team really what's going on. The guy who's going to be president next year of the association, he 100% has a positive outlook. There is not a single time when he would say, all right, well, wait a minute. What about this? You need those people in your lives. You need the unicorns who are spewing the rainbows, because you've got to have somebody, share those positive outlook. They can't always, they can't not ignore the negative, but that's one of the characteristics. Making decisive or taking immediate action. The guy who was president, John Smaby, he's from Minnesota this year. If I needed 10 people to call, I will make a list, I will write out the phone numbers, I will write notes next to each person. I might get around to calling those 10 people within the week, maybe. John Smaby, hey, I got 10 people you need to call, and here's what I need to tell you. He hangs up the phone 30 minutes later, he calls me back, done, what do you need me to do next? He just gets it done. So all of these pieces, tracking and measuring progress. You can't have a top company if you don't do that. Making things simple. This is one of the things that the unicorn companies have disrupted as they've moved into our space. They've made things simple. In our world, if you think about kind of the evolution of what has happened, in 1997, we first started putting our listings online. And we started sharing them with Realtor.com, and we started sharing them with other portals. And we started sharing them with each other, and we had websites. From 1997 to about the 2017, we invested billions of dollars into the search process, right? The searching for homes, making sure the fields were better, making sure there were more pictures, making sure that the consumer experience was better to search. 2017 forward, we are now seeing the billions of dollars being invested into our industry from contract to close. We're starting to see prop tech come in. It's estimated that I think $16 billion will now be in prop tech, which is property technology, designed specifically for our industry. $16 billion. There is $40 billion in financial technology just to streamline the financial process, all around keeping things simple, trying to keep it more simple. And who do our clients think is the biggest barrier to keeping the transaction simple? Us, those realtors who keep making it hard. So somewhere in there, you've got to find that space between saying, hey, I can take immediate action. I can make things simple for you. I can connect and care and communicate. The number one thing we know that we have to do more and more and more and more of. I am consistent, which I know is another big word that we have to focus on, that I'm consistent with my skill sets. And guess what? I am productive, but I am not too busy for your service. I am productive and I am not too busy. So the habits of the unicorn leaders, that's what we have to embrace in order to lead our unicorn company. Unicorns conquer their kingdom by owning their neck of the woods first. That was my lesson this year, right? Quit screwing around with that office that was 5 hours away. Conquer your neck of the kingdom. You know, we've seen it. We're seeing these mega teams who are starting up over here, and next thing you know, 2 days later, they've got like a mega team in 3 other states. And you're going, what are you doing? You know, where is your neck of the kingdom? Where's your neck of the woods? Where are you finding that little spot, you know, that is yours, where that person knows that that person is you? In realtor world, in association world, I kind of explain it using this slide here. Because guess what? Nobody cares and nobody knows who the president of NAR is. They don't know the name. You didn't know my name before I came in here. And I know you don't know the name of the person who it's going to be next year. Right? There's only going to be 10 of them in the next 10 years. There'll be 10. But you might know the name of your local Association of Realtors president. And in the next 10 years, there's going to be 11,000 local Association of Realtor presidents across the country who define and shape what it means to be a realtor for all of those realtors who are in that association. You define and shape what it means to be a realtor for every customer that you will come in contact with. If there's one thing that we need to do to improve our professionalism, it's every single one of us has to be more professional. Every single one of us who touches that client has to be more professional because we are the only thing they think of. My greatest fear is that Bill Jones totally screws up in Duluth, Iowa, and it goes viral. Because how on earth do we control the message when Bill Jones just totally blows it and screws up in Duluth, Iowa? Because that's what'll happen. All 1.4 million of us who are so proud to carry and wear that name Realtor, it hits us. And now we have to individually respond for what Bill Jones does. But that's a reality. That is a very strong reality. Take it a step further. What if it's a Remax agent? Can we control that? I hope it's a Remax agent, because if it's a Remax agent, I know they will have done a better job than if it was someone else. You know, but that's the world that we're in today, and that's kind of that world that we have to be prepared for. And so how do you control that messaging is you have to own your relationship with your clients. You have to have the best relationship with your clients, knowing that they will come back to you. If you look at the studies and the statistics, buyers and sellers, they love their agents. They don't like realtors, but they love their agents. So for you, owning this piece of the neck of the woods means that you have a strong relationship with your database, you have a strong relationship with those clients, so that if somebody screws up out there in California, that it doesn't affect you because they don't think of it as you. They think of you as being that realtor that they love, not lumped in with the 1.4. Does that make sense? One of my friends does campaign management for political campaigns. And he goes in the last 72 hours to try to correct all the flutter going around on the internet. You have to have 7 positive comments for every 1 negative. 7 positive for 1 negative. So if there's one thing that I could leave you with here today on this piece of it is go out, get your ratings, get your reviews, get as many as you can. It's a great time of year to do it. And build that up so that for one thing happens, if one crazy person out there happens, you've kind of already built this strong army of people who are kind of around you to do that. So the third piece of the definition of the unicorn then comes in the team. We've talked about the companies. We've talked about you as the leader and how you need to be the leader of your companies. But the last piece is really that team piece. And it's that team piece that really makes it all come together, that really brings the magic together when you realize that you have a team. But one of the things that happens in looking for teams, and it's a phenomena that happens in the world, is that we are looking for other unicorns. We're looking and we are trying to hire people that don't exist. We're looking for this mythical candidate. We're looking for this mythical client. We're looking for this person who has absolutely everything. And guys, none of us have it all. None of us have it all. You're looking for that client who comes in and it's like, wait, I want the client who's going to pay, buy the $500,000 home cash and, has no contingencies and no house to sell. That's who I want to work with. Well, I do too. But that's one of the problems that's happening. And now in HR, as people are going out and they're trying to put teams together, they're looking for this unicorn that doesn't exist. So a lot of times with our teams, what we have to do is we have to build them. Nobody in this room stepped in here as the perfect agent. And if you think you were, we may have a problem. Right? We may have a problem with that. So a lot of times we've got to build these teams. And if you're thinking about building a team, you have to build it. You have to invest in it. If you're going to bring somebody on, you're going to have to train. You're going to have to teach. But what we do, and I can be the worst at it, we're expecting that person to come in and just all of a sudden take care of it all with their magic wand because they sounded good in the interview, right? And they're going to come in and they're going to be amazing and they're going to do everything right. And if you're on a team and you're working with somebody, you know that that's their expectation of you. And you're like, wait, can you show me how the copier code is, please? A little bit of that. And so part of this team mentality in today's world is really building the teams and adding people to the teams. And it's recruiting people who have potential. It's recruiting people who are going to come in on your team who may not have it all together. They're going to need some training. They're going to need some help. They're going to need to learn, and they're going to recruit people who sometimes have a little piece of that to come on. I think, again, you have to look. Did somebody take a chance on you when you first got in the business? Is there a mortgage person that you want to partner with, that you're going to take a chance on and help them learn? Is it title? Are you the new person who has to come on and learn where somebody's going to help you learn? But building that team starts to get you all together. Teams, good unicorn teams, they understand the mission. Right? We all understand the mission. They understand that they have to enhance and embrace change. They can't come in and just be that one person all stop. They've got to come in. They've got to help identify obstacles and then commit to finding solutions. That's one of my favorite things in a team. Can you find and identify the obstacles, but further, are you going to commit to finding the solution to kind of move that along within the team? And then, of course, communicate. And then the last thing is it somebody who you're going to have fun with? I have a top agent right now. I love him to death. He still can't get it right. He's still trying to figure it out. But what he finally realized is the one person who does the most business just really isn't any fun, and doesn't want to have fun. And he's realized, he said, well, even though he may be great on the team, he's not great on my team, because we're not a fit together. And I think sometimes, again, that's part of realizing, okay, we're two great people, but maybe we're not great on the same team together. The opposite side of it is if you're having too much fun, then the team doesn't really get anywhere either on that one. So a little bit about building those teams together. As things continue to change and as things continue to evolve, we continue to find new ways then that people are servicing us and servicing the industry. For Eileen, in her world of tech ventures, they've now actually built an app that claims it can identify a venture capitalist using facial recognition. So if she holds the phone up to you, she can decide whether or not, based on your facial features, whether or not you are a good fit to be a unicorn capital venture investor. I'm like, okay, so how's that going to fit in our industry, right? Are we going to start, you're not going to be any fun to work with. ooh, I'd love to recruit you. I don't know. The things that continue to happen, right? They're scary and they just keep changing on us all the time. And again, it makes us nervous. It makes me nervous as a broker when I see this. I'm like, okay, how does this fit? How do I prepare my agents for that? Do I have the skill set? Do I have the financials? Do I have the resources to kind of figure that out? And then the other side that happens is no matter what happens, you're going to go down. It may be a market change. It may be a personal change in your personal life that's happened. It could be, as I mentioned, it could be a big social media blow up or disaster. Is anybody here involved in the association, or do they volunteer at their local? So some of you do. So you may remember or know, last year we raised our dues. Always fun. Always a fun topic. So here I am, getting to go around the country speaking to hundreds of people, walking in going, I'm going to explain to you why you're going to raise your dues. And they're all like, okay, thanks for coming. Either that or you just get silent rooms of. It's not fun. It's never fun. It's never fun going to a client and telling them that, the inspection didn't come through right. They got to pay $2,000 more. It's never a fun topic. It's not something you want to do. You've got to prove yourself over and over and over again. You've got to prove that you have statistics, that you did your research over and over and over again. You've got to understand that you're going to leave and people may still not trust you. NAR is like the government. I'm like, I really have an office. I'm really a realtor back home. But it's like the government. People see it as something they have to join, not something that's assisting them with their business, and so those conversations are never fun. And it's never fun then when all of a sudden Inman decides they want to write a slam story. So Inman got I swear this is like a whole nother topic, a whole nother presentation that I'll give one day that I'll get to share all the details on, but they got a fake letter from an individual who claimed it was written by someone else, who accused us as officers of financially benefiting from the dues increase. Now, I can take a lot, but that one hurt. That one hurt bad, right? So I'm sitting at home on my couch watching the story on Inman Hit, and it's just comment after comment after comment after comment. And it is very surreal to see a whole line of comments start to load up from people that you have no idea who they are. I mean, no idea who they are. And then, to see them, we got things like death threats. We got things that said, the CEO should be shot, all sorts of things. And I'm reading every one of them because I think it's my job. I need to read it. If I'm going to be in touch, it's my job to, read every one of them. And then, of course, I've got my agents who are emailing me going, is this true? Is this true? So it literally was like 11 o'clock my time, Central Time, 9 o'clock in California, and I called one of our officers who was from California, and I said, Vince, I don't have a clue what to do here. I don't have a clue how, and he goes, good, because if you did, I'd be scared. And that was such a powerful statement at that point in time, right? If I had acted like I knew what to do, or, one, it would have been fake, but he was like, we're going to figure this out. So we literally stayed up that night until 2 a.m. getting affidavits from everyone who was involved that said they were not receiving any financial benefit. So by 2 a.m., we nailed everybody down. And so by 6 a.m. in the morning, we could release a statement that said, hey, this isn't true. This is not the case. And, get your facts straight. The only way you can do that is if you have a team that you can trust. And this is my team. They're my unicorns. We had built and we had conversations. We had trusted each other. We were talking. We were truthful. We knew that we could have real conversations. And you don't always get that, but you need that from your team that you're going to be involved with. And again, whether it's your family, whether it's your company, whether it's, a client base that you have, you can't do this business alone. I think I got into this business in 1996. And could you be a very strong, productive, independent agent? Yes. Can you still be a very strong, independent agent? Yes. but it is likely that you're getting support from someone, from your brokerage, from extended services, from assistant services that you might be hiring. So there is a team out there that you are working with who is helping you do this. And if you can trust them, and they can be amazing, this is the most awesome profession that exists. It is absolutely the most awesome profession, that you are in. And when you work with that client and you put them in that home, you know how amazing it is. When you go down, it can be the worst time ever. In 2008, when the market changed, the Kleenex was on the front of my desk. Today, it's kind of in the back. It's kind of nice, and we don't need it as much. But it doesn't mean that there isn't that time every point in the year when someone needs the Kleenex. And sometimes it's me, But that's where you really need to have those people around you that you can trust. So the last piece, of course, of the unicorn was really this customer service piece. It was, you can be the best run company. You can have the best leader out there. You can have the best team out there. But if you haven't developed and you haven't really narrowed in on the customer service piece, it ain't gonna work. Uber had that happen, right? They had everything going right, and then all of a sudden they just weren't quite nailing the service, and they had to kick it back up. So if you're gonna do this, what skills then do you have to be the most amazing customer service representative? Because you're not selling houses. Do we all agree to that? We're not selling houses. What are we selling? Our service. Remember that every single day. So, number one, do you have empathy, patience, and consistency? Empathy, patience, and consistency. Don't you feel like these are some of the skill sets that seem to be lacking a lot? Some customers, they're going to be irate. Unfortunately, the empathy and the patience, it's with the customers. That's gone out the window. Others are going to be full of questions, you know that. Some are just chatty. I can't deal with the chatty ones. I'm really difficult with those. But you know that you've got to provide and figure out how do you provide them that same customer service that can be delivered over and over and over again. Whether they are micro commitments, whether they are repeatable actions, I like to call them a lot of the times, you have to develop that consistency so that when someone refers you, they get the same product that they had from you. Number two is the adaptability piece. Can you adapt? Because every customer is going to be different. A lot of times this comes into play when you bring your teammates on, right? Can your teammate adapt the same way you adapt? Do you adapt because you have a teammate? Because this business can change week to week. It absolutely can change week to week. Somebody made a comment once and they said, real estate agents never change. I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, you will change on a dime if you think it's going to benefit your business or your consumer more. Because it's easy. Because it's just us, it's just you. You can change, so you've got to be adaptable. And the other piece of that, I think that's so critical, and it's really, you guys are the choir. It's why you're here today. It's that ability to learn and the willingness to learn and to want to learn more about the agency. Again, my rule in my office is 4 times a year. 4 times a year, you got to get out of your head. You got to go to a conference, you got to read a book, you got to, anytime somebody comes in and they're struggling or what's happening and they're thinking different things, I'm like, what have you done this year to get out of your head, to think a little bit differently, just kind of to challenge yourselves and kind of do that. So number 3, clear communication. How many times do you think consumers want to be communicated with today? The average is every day. That seems like a lot. When you're on the other side and sometimes you get it and you're like, oh my gosh, they keep calling me. Leave them a text message, slide dial, send them an email, give them a quick update. If they're not getting communicated with every day, just a little step along the way, they're probably not feeling it like they might, because you just never know. Be authentic, say positive language. Again, don't tell your customer that he's getting 50% when he's not, those different things. But always confirm then that they're satisfied. Is there anything else that you need? Please let me know if I can help out with any more information. Here's my website where you can get additional information, which is a great way to say, I'm not leaving you hanging. Come to my website or email me or text me. Give them some last directive so that if you haven't given them what they need, they feel like there's still another venue to kind of communicate with you. Number 4, work ethic. How many of you work 40 hours a week? How many of you think you work more? How many of you know you work less? Right? Sometimes it just depends. And that's another thing. I'll always ask an agent when they come in and they're struggling, I'm like, did you work 40 hours this week? It's kind of like, what? I'm like, did you work 40 hours? Well, of course I did. Nah. Did you really? What time did you get up today? Why are we having a 10 o'clock appointment? Well, yeah, because you were sleeping. But you got to have that work ethic, and you've got to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. We saw, if anybody was in San Francisco, Magic Johnson was our speaker this year, who was, oh my gosh, amazing. There'll be a replay of it that you can find at nar.realtor. He was like one of the best speakers we've ever heard. And one of the things he said, every morning I get up at 4, I go work out, then I have breakfast with my family, then by 7 a.m. I'm in the office every day until 6. That's just what it was. It's so easy today being remote to kind of adjust all of those hours and all of those things, but you got to have that work ethic and stay focused. And you know what happens when you have that work ethic? You actually have more balance because you have a system and you don't have the highs and the lows and all of that chaos that you're trying to figure out and how do I control it and how do I manage my time. It's amazing what happens when you just agree to kind of make sure that you're working from 9 to 5. You don't have a little bit of that. It slows that down a little bit. Knowledge. Are you knowledgeable about your product? Are you knowledgeable about this business? And are you continually learning? It's continuing to change. I think it's the reason why we're seeing so much discomfort in agents who have been in this business for a long time, because it's changing and it's shifting and it's not happening the same way. It's also why we're seeing so much discomfort in agents who are getting into the business, because they're looking at it from a consumer standpoint and not necessarily a practitioner standpoint of really learning those fundamental and those foundational skills of the contracts, the forms, the processes. So don't ever be afraid to say, I don't know. My number one goal as a broker is that I've empowered my agents with enough information that they're confident enough to say, I don't know, but I can get back with you on that one. Versus the fear of saying, oh my gosh, I have no idea. But be confident enough to appreciate, and your clients appreciate that honesty when you say, I don't know. So the last one, as we wrap up the day, and we kind of finish our conversation on unicorn real estate, is do you have a thick skin? You got to have it in this business. You never, ever, ever know what is going to be thrown at you. We can start the tears right now of the conversations and the things that we've had of things people have said to us, things people have done to us. But you gotta have thick skin. And how you survive those moments is with a team. How you survive those moments is the knowledge that you get. How you survive those moments is knowing there's other people in your life who care about you. So earlier this year, I'm walking out of the parking lot of my office, and my top agent's walking in. And he says to me, he goes, you told me it would happen. I was like, what? He goes, oh no, it happened. He goes, you told me this was going to be a really, really lonely business. I said, all right, come on in, what happened? So he goes to a closing. He's sitting at the closing. Across from him is the other agent. And the other agent actually used to be in my office long time ago. They still play golf together. They have some, mutual social time that they spend together. So they get in and they're like, hey, dude, hey, yeah. Okay, great. They're closing on a $750,000 house. Now, remember what I told you earlier. In my market, $190,000, right? $750, this is a big deal. It's a really big deal. So they're sitting down at the table. And he doesn't know if it was Facebook or if it was a mistake, or sometimes you just screw up when you have different things on your mind. But the agent on the other side of the table started a group message in Facebook with some other agents in his office. Maybe by accident, he typed in my agent's name. So the other agent on the other side, who also is a broker, by the way, starts typing, and somebody says, oh, I'm at a closing. Oh, who's it with? My agent's name. Sucks to be you. Absolutely. You know he never shuts up. He's so full of himself. Someone else types in, yeah, sucks to be you. And meanwhile, my agent is reading this entire thread. So my agent sends back and says, yeah, sucks to be you, especially when you realize the agent's sitting across from you reading the thread. And he says he looks up and the guy just goes white, just totally white. All we need to do is be kind to each other. You know, being kind solves a whole lot of problems in this world. A whole lot of problems. It solves your prospecting problems because you're out there being kind. It solves the professional problems because we're kind to one each other, you know, on the other side of the table. You know, the whole time he's telling me this story, I'm thinking, well, he's never going to that company. You know, I'm like, okay. But, you know, it was one of those things where it was just a reminder of just absolutely be kind, you know, and to know that you have a team. And, you know, and I looked at him and I said, you know, you're right. I said, at this moment in time, all anybody needed to be doing was to say thank you. You know, here's a transaction. It went well. Everybody's ended up at the closing table. Buyer and seller are happy. It's a big closing day for everybody. You know, you just need to be thankful. So you know, this business can feel very, very alone sometimes. But you have this amazing team. Please know, I mean, Carl is right. We met over making ravioli. But it was a fun time, you know, and when I got to find someone else who I knew that was going to be on my team, you know, and that was a very special day. I want to remind you that you are special. Don't ever forget that. Anybody who decided to enter this profession to help someone else the way you do, you are extraordinarily special. And don't ever forget to tell each other that throughout the day as you are having, you know, those conversations and stuff. If all else fails, go get yourself some fancy shoes. That's what I leaned in. I have some shoes like this, little unicorn shoes you can run around and walk in. Makes you feel good, gives you a little pep in your step, and everybody goes, what on earth are you wearing? So it starts a conversation, right? And of course, this last quote is kind of, again, the quote to wrap it up. And it was so funny because when I was talking with Olivier, he goes, there's no magic out there. And I was like, but I'm going to talk about magic. The path of the unicorn, it's never complete. We know that. It is the journey of a lifetime. This business is the journey of a lifetime, and it is creating a wonderful life for so many people, especially you. The more you do, the deeper the work becomes. We certainly know that with real estate, and only you can choose that path of that unicorn that you want to be. So step into the magic because it is a very, very special place. Thank you all very much.